WBC belt that has included Ali, the greatest of all time. They are set and ready to answer who's the greatest of right now. Wilder, Fury 2, here we go.
I don't know, maybe the mediator will be able to solve the situation. But, we got a real problem because Tyson Fury has said to me and to the mediator that not today, not tomorrow, and not ever would he ever fight Wilder after what Wilder said to him. He regards it as a slur not only against him, but against the Gypsy Nation.
So is he willing to release the belt, the WBC belt?
Why would he have to release the belt?
I'm just, because of I'm just saying if the mediation goes in favor of Wilder, in your opinion.
I don't want to get into legalities, but the idea of anybody stopping the Fury Joshua fight just can't happen. And the belts aren't, the WBC belt isn't an issue.
Okay, gotcha. So you're more leaning towards 100% that Fury Joshua takes place in May. You got a busy May.
Well, it could be in June. But
okay.
Yeah.
So you got y'all. Oh, hold up, Bob. Y'all got a date already? Then y'all got a date.
This is essentially confirmation of what I've been telling you guys here on the channel all along, that legally, Deontay Wilder has no precedence to get in the way of the Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury fight.
Got nothing.
That essentially, if he really could have, he would have.
But he can't.
One of the revelations here is that Tyson Fury has no intention of giving Deontay Wilder another opportunity, another chance to share the squared circle with him due to the slanderous comments Deontay Wilder has made in reference to Tyson Fury, Glovegate, glove tempering.
And the Gypsy people.
He flat out cheated. That wasn't the best man. That was the coward of a man. He got a long reputation of cheating. And this right here is nothing less of him. He's a known cheater. So if you're known to be a known cheater, why are you going to stop now? The Gypsies believe in if they have an opportunity to cheat and they don't cheat, they consider you to be a sucker. When we know time and time again, you can go back through the history in the rap sheet of cheating consistently, even with the Klitschko fight, cheating. And this make it no better. So he definitely wasn't a better man.
Deontay Wilder described Tyson Fury as a known cheater. Yet it was his wish to take on this known cheater, not just once, but twice. Even at a time when there was a lot of money on the table for him to take on someone else, someone who's not a known cheater, someone that goes by the name of Anthony Joshua. Deontay Wilder kept choosing to fight Tyson Fury. He made his bed, and now he has to lie in it. It seems that Deontay Wilder wasn't none too worried about Tyson Fury's sketchy past up until Tyson Fury beat him. That's when he started worrying about Tyson Fury being a cheater. That's when he started making these accusations. But before that, Deontay Wilder wasn't calling Tyson Fury a cheater. They were trying to build this thing as the best versus the best.
Weren't they?
Only so that as soon as things don't go Deontay Wilder's way, he presumes to assassinate the character of Tyson Fury, which is rather convenient. Oh, he's such a cheater, right?
Right.
He's such a cheater that you chose to fight him 2 times instead of fighting Anthony Joshua.
Right.
And this isn't just fan-driven spiel. Deontay Wilder has, in so many words, admitted this himself by way of his own social media account. When he came out of hiding and made the admission that there was more money on the table for him to fight Anthony Joshua than there was for him to fight Tyson Fury, and he chose to fight Tyson Fury.
He said that.
He admitted it.
Because Tyson Fury's such a big fucking cheater, right? Right.
In truth, there are no surprises here and not that much new ground to cover. This is what I always told you it was.
Hot air.
This entire Glovegate fiasco and this mediation, arbitration situation, all of this stuff, it don't get off the ground. And what it don't do is get in the way of Joshua versus Fury.
Just another case of sour grapes.
Tyson Fury having no further intention of sharing the ring with Deontay Wilder after what Deontay Wilder has said about Tyson Fury, said about Tyson Fury's people. That could very well be the actual reason that that's not happening. I mean, it could be exactly the way that Bob Arum says it is. Or it could be that, Tyson Fury has no use of Deontay Wilder anymore. Whatever he was going to get out of that engagement, those engagements, he's already gotten it. He is the WBC and Ring Magazine heavyweight champion. There's nothing left to prove in the squared circle against Deontay Wilder. Tyson Fury has essentially proven himself already.
Yeah, he has.
So whether it's because Tyson Fury is so offended by what Deontay Wilder has said, Deontay Wilder's slander, Deontay Wilder's libel, whether it's due to that or it's simply because he doesn't want to waste time on Wilder anymore, he's got the Joshua fight to think about one way or another. It's what I always told you. Deontay Wilder's shenanigans, they don't get off the ground.
Deontay and his dented skull.
And it really amazes me how fucking stupid people are. I mean, there are actually people running around believing this stuff. That Deontay Wilder's head was caved in by some kind of foreign object concealed in Tyson Fury's glove. I've asked this before, and I'll ask it again. If Tyson Fury is every inch the dirty fighter that Deontay Wilder says he is, then why would Deontay Wilder want to fight him again?
Shouldn't you be suing him?
Or trying to, suing him for assault with a deadly weapon? I mean, this whole mediation arbitration thing, that ain't what that is, you understand? That whole mediation arbitration thing is a means for Deontay Wilder to try and get Tyson Fury back in the ring. But this is the guy you're saying clubbed you with a shake weight or an Acme Anvil or whatever it was. So if you really believe that stuff, why would you want to fight him again? Moreover, if your skull was in fact caved in by some kind of alien object concealed in Tyson Fury's gloves, how are you supposed to pass an MRI to fight anyone again?
Wait.
Much less Tyson Fury. Have you guys actually sat down and thought about how fucking stupid all of this is? If the side of the guy's head is smashed in, if he has a dented skull...
Dented bone.
Really didn't know that you could dent bone.
You can shatter it.
You can break it, but dent it. Well, yeah, that is a new one. And if it's the way that Wilder says it is, that the side of his head is dented in, smashed in, as a result of some object that Tyson Fury hit him with in the second fight, if that's the case, then how's the guy supposed to pass an MRI to have a fight, to have any fights moving forward, much less a third fight with Tyson Fury? You make that make sense. That's a career-ending injury that Deontay Wilder is describing. What commission, what doctor is going to clear you to fight if you've got a dent on the side of your head, a dent on the side of your skull?
What doctor?
Dr. Scholl's, Dr. Pepper, maybe Dr. Dre, Funk Dr. Spot.
Certainly not Dr. Ron's.
But there's a legitimate question in there. I mean, all fuckery aside, if it really were exactly the way that Deontay Wilder and Deontay Wilder's fans say it is, that he's got a dent on the side of his skull, then you tell me what commission and what doctor would clear him to fight at all moving forward.
They wouldn't.
Which can really only mean two things. Either it's the way that Deontay Wilder says it is, and the side of his skull is in fact smashed in. Either it's the way he says it is, and his career is over, he's facing retirement, or that's just a lot of bullshit. His head's not dented in because you can't dent bone.
Did he receive any surgery to his skull since then?
From late February of last year till now, has Deontay Wilder's head been operated on? Did they put a metal plate there? Is there something he's leaving out? Because unless they did, this whole dented skull theory is just a lot of hot air. It's just a lot of bullshit. And it's bullshit that only flies with the most gullible of the gullible.
Fucking imbeciles.
So is he willing to release the belt? The WBC belt?
Why would he have to release the belt?
Why indeed? Tyson Fury's reign as WBC champion isn't contingent upon anything that happens with Deontay Wilder outside of the squared circle. Tyson Fury holding the WBC title I mean, it's really just not subject to this mediation arbitration situation. Tyson Fury is under no orders whatsoever from the WBC to give Deontay Wilder a third outing, a third chance. That really was an arbitrary question on the part of barbershop hallucinations. Moreover, I think it was a Freudian slip, that perhaps he and several of Deontay Wilder's fans are hoping that the outcome of this situation is that the green belt might somehow be returned to Deontay Wilder with or without a third fight, with or without a third outing. But, that's not going to happen. The WBC hasn't ordered Tyson Fury to give Deontay Wilder a third fight.
They haven't.
All systems appear to be a go for Joshua versus Fury. Eddie Hearn has gone on to say that he's about 90% sure the fight happens this year. Bob Arum on Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury Talks said, "I can report that everything so far has been going splendidly, and we hope to have a signed document within the next couple of weeks. We're all on the same page. I'm 95% confident." That's 5% more than Eddie Hearn. "I'm 95% confident the fight happens." The interesting part about all of this is that if it's the way that Bob and Eddie say it is, Anthony Joshua could very well be Tyson Fury's next opponent. And I think what's not being said, I think that what's not being mentioned is that essentially that would have to mean that Tyson Fury will have been out of action for over a year the night of the fight. Lest we forget,
He ain't fought since February of last year.
and we're halfway through the month of January. February of this year is fast approaching. That will make a year, a full year's time, since Tyson Fury shared the squared circle with anyone. He tried to get back out there one more time before last year was out, but, just didn't materialize. Things didn't work out. We talked about that here on the channel, how, the Anthony Joshua fight is the biggest fight of both of their careers. Not just Tyson Fury, but Anthony Joshua as well. But particular to Tyson Fury, it is a bigger fight than the Klitschko fight was. It is a bigger fight than both of the Deontay Wilder fights, both of those engagements. And I firmly believed that what Tyson Fury wanted to do was to get back out there one more time against a lighter touch, against a keep busy kind of guy, keep busy kind of opponent, in a keep busy kind of engagement to shake off the ring rust, to shake off the cobwebs, because ideally, you don't want to go into the biggest fight of your career with as much on the line as there would be having not fought in 12 months or over 12 months.
Yeah, that's not encouraging.
But based on these reports and everything that's being said on both sides, on the Eddie Hearn, Anthony Joshua side, and on the Tyson Fury, Bob Arum side, it looks like that's going to be Tyson Fury's next fight. And if it is, Tyson Fury will not have fought since February, late February of last year.
Could that affect his performance?
Well, when you consider that, Vasyl Lomachenko, ahead of that Teofimo Lopez fight, he had a year of inactivity as well. Granted that Vasyl Lomachenko was sporting an injury of some kind, at least that's what he said post-fight. Better still, ahead of that Teofimo Lopez fight, Vasyl Lomachenko hadn't seen any action in about 12 months. The last time he fought was in the Luke Campbell fight. So if Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua end up fighting in either May or June, Tyson Fury will have been away from the ring for over 12 months. About, 14, 15 months? Just about?
I think that's relevant.
That Fury didn't get back out there towards the end of 2020. That he didn't get the chance to have that little stay busy fight, to keep the tools sharp, to keep the machine well oiled. I do think that's important ahead of an Anthony Joshua fight. I do think that could affect his performance. Not saying he let himself go between fights, but you do need to get under those hot lights every so often to remind yourself what you're doing. The good news is, all systems do appear to be a go for Joshua versus Fury this year. Do you see how fast things start to change, how the wheels effectively go into motion as soon as you remove the time wasters like Deontay Wilder?
Yeah, that can't be a coincidence.
Yet another tidbit to Matchroom and Top Rank's current set of negotiations in reference to the Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury fight is that Bob Arum has revealed that he and Eddie Hearn are planning to work on making cross-promotional Matchroom versus Top Rank fights for the undercard of Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury if it gets finalized. And, there are a couple of fights that almost immediately come to mind that would be cross-promotional, cross-platform fights. Bivol versus Artur Beterbiev almost immediately comes to mind, though I doubt that fight would happen on this kind of schedule. You're talking about May or June. Neither one of those two guys have seen any action in over 12 months, and I think before they lock horns with each other, they'd likely have tune-up fights beforehand. I don't know that on this kind of schedule there's enough time to fit them into a Joshua versus Fury card set to go down in May or June. It's being reported that the Josh Warrington versus Kansu fight is very close to being announced, and, perhaps the winner of that fight could go on to participate on the undercard of Joshua versus Fury against Top Ranks guy Emmanuel Navarrete in what would be a unification match. Lest we forget, Emmanuel Navarrete very recently moved up from 122 to 126 and procured the WBO title there. Maybe that's a cross-promotional, cross-platform fight that we could see come into fruition. I like the idea of such a match. It would bring consolidation to the featherweight division, the kind of consolidation that the PBC has failed to give us in spite of having two active reigning world champions at the weight for many years now.
Yeah, Leo still has that WBA title.
And Gary Russell Jr. still is the WBC's featherweight champion. These two guys reigned parallel to each other for years, and the PBC, they never hit the gas to make that fight happen, to make that fight a reality. Hopefully, between Matchroom and Top Rank, things can start to change at 126 pounds, because so long as the PBC and their fighters are present in a given weight class, you can bet your bottom dollar
They're gonna hold things up.
You see what they did with Wilder versus Joshua. You see what they're currently doing with Errol Spence Jr. versus Terrence Crawford. The PBC, more than anyone else the last couple of years, has had the opportunity to bring consolidation to the featherweight division, and they've squandered it. They would rather feed those fighters that they have campaigning there to their guy at 130 pounds, Gervonta Davis.
We just saw him knock out Leo Santa Cruz.
That being said, cross-promotional, cross-network fights are beneficial to the aforementioned parties and beneficial to the fight fans, because it consolidates the weight classes, consolidates the titles, and consolidates the sport in a way that it needs to be consolidated overall. It's one sport, after all. It's the sport of boxing.
That's how it's supposed to be.
And that's how it's been in previous eras. Only in this postmodern era do we see an outfit trying to separate themselves from the rest of the world of boxing. You guys know who I'm talking about. So this is a rather encouraging bit of news, that even if there are those out there who would stifle the sport's progress, there are still those others working to do what's right for the sport and what's right for the fans.
And fuck Al Heyman.